Hello everyone, today I'm going to be taking a look at Triton Noir's game of stealth, intrigue and objectives in World War II, V-Sabotage. Alright, so the box for V-Sabotage, Infiltration, Combat and Operations. If I flip it over, you can see here what you get. So it's a stealth-based World War II game where you play a commando or a team of commandos sent in to do very specific missions. It plays out on various map tiles, which you'll see in a moment, using cardboard tokens. It is also dual language, so everything you need in here is reproduced for both English and French speakers. If I pop it over and open it up, you can see we've a whole host of stuff. So some spare baggies, cards, dice, and tokens. So let's break the box down first, and then we'll be back to have a look at it in more detail. Okay, I have separated out the English and French language stuff, so I've got one complete set here to look through. I'm going to start off with the rulebook. You may have heard of V-Sabotage before. It used to be called V-Commandos. Got a bit of a rebranding and a slight upgrade in the contents and the artwork. So you may be familiar with the game from then. So World War II stealth game, it is very much about the stealth. It is not run and gun. If you do that, you'll find yourself running into problems very quickly. So the whole purpose of this game is completing the objectives without alerting the enemy to your position. So there's a lot of tactics that go into exactly how you complete the mission. And there are two types. There are individual levels, because it's very similar to a sort of a PC stealth game. Or there are operations which combine several of these levels together into a larger coherent story, I suppose. So you've got a couple of phases. Your phase followed by the enemy, and then an end of turn phase where you check for success and failure, that sort of thing. The game itself plays out very, very simply. I suppose elegantly is a good term for it. There's a lot of components in the box, but not many required when you're playing. So you're not going to be dealing with a lot of clutter on the board. Sometimes board games like this can just sort of generate clutter and chits and tracking. So as you can see, full color rulebook, which is about 21 pages long and beautifully laid out and very easy to read, which is important with a game like this, especially when it's translated into multiple languages. So the company Triton Noir are French-Canadian. So this is presumably translated from the French into English, but it still works very well. So no worries there about actual translation issues. There is the game turn sequence on the back. This was one of the things that a lot of people commented on in the previous edition, that a turn sequence or a quick reference sheet would be handy, opposed to the one that's just on the back here, which is a very cut down version explaining what you can do, moving, shooting, blocking doors, unblocking doors, picking stuff up, all the sort of standard stuff. Happily for this edition, they have done that. In fact, there are 8. So 4 quick reference sheets in English and 4 in French. So if you're playing with multiple people, you've got enough for everyone. And as you can see here, it's on thin cardstock, but it explains all the various intricacies that you will probably run into and the things that you may want to refer to without having to go flicking through the book on a regular basis. So with the back of the book and then that quick reference sheet, that's you sorted. There's also a little training manual, just a pamphlet with 3 training missions that lead you through how the game is played out. So those are the book type things. Now we'll have a look at some of the cardboard. Okay, so we're back. We're going to start with the map tiles. There are 4 large sets of tiles and then 2 smaller. That being the compass that you need for your missions to show you what direction the enemy are going to move in. As you can see, the tiles are thick cardstock, 2mm, and they've got a satin finish. The print quality is lovely on them. They have a very deco feel. You can see information in the bottom corner, so that's the score required to shoot things in those squares. So larger squares, a bit easier. They're also all double-sided. So you have internal and external, which is important when you're building your maps up. And as you can see, there's a whole range from water towers to, what's that, Kugelwagen, to somebody's cabbage patch. And then in the larger ones, again, internal and external. And you can see here, this is a large tile, a medium tile, and a small tile. And when the book refers to any of those, that will tell you the one you need to do. So we have a duplicate of those 2. And then we have another with slightly different layout, including a war room. And it's also duplicated. So if you need to use the reverse with the likes of the half track, you can do that as well. So those are our map tiles. Then for the last of our cards, we have the tokens. So here you can see equipment items. So crowbars, grenades, airstrikes, markers in case you've been spotted for setup. These are your doors. So grey side is open and then closed with the closed door in the middle. You can also see trapdoor escapes, and these are objective markers and alarm markers. Again, 2mm card, nicely printed and well centered on the die cuts as well, because there's nothing worse than having a die cut off center. You also have the set that has some more equipment, so weapons, medical pouches, a lot more doors, the spawn points, and 2 machine gun nests. There's the reverse when things start to go wrong. And then we have 3 sheets for our actual soldiers. So here we have the Germans. A nice range of figures there. Again, die cut's very good. This side, slightly more late with the additional die. Here we have our heroes. So each of the heroes has 2. One is standard commando and the other is when they're disguised as a German. And if I flip them over, there's also a sort of seen and unseen and wounded. So the disguise side has your wounded, and then your standard side has your exposed or hidden, I suppose, depending on your point of view. Again, really nice detail on them, and I love the choice of artwork as well. It's an almost comic book feel very minimalist. We also have some no deployment tokens when you're seeing who comes in out of the bag. We have some of our villainous types or friends to be evacuated. We have a set of just blanks for you to make your own missions and games up, because you can do exactly that. So once you play through, you can continue. There are two types of card. We have a large tarot card, and this has our commandos. So as you can see here, each commando has their type, equipment slots, sort of standard equipment, wound markers, so they can save an action up here, or if they take a wound, they'll lose an action. Their abilities, and on the reverse, a slightly more standard version. So we have our French medic, we have the British officer who has a suppressed stem, or an American sapper, looks like SAS or commando for the British Scout, and then finally a Russian sniper. So nice big cards to use in game. The rest of the tarot deck is, the rest of the tarot cards are split into two types. So we have, as you can see, glorious artwork on the back. So these are your layouts for individual levels. And then we also have our operation card. So when you're playing, each of these is, I think, paired off. But when you're making up your own missions, you can use the card from one with, the layout from another. So these are operation, let's just take the first one, Black Tea. So Norway in 43, shows you where it's going to be taking place. On the back, it tells you the levels that are going to be used. So you need to complete bridges and streets to unlock the fuel depot to continue. Then the second card tells you exactly what the mission is. And on the reverse, the setup, any special mission rules for certain levels. So bridges, add one Mauser enemy unit with a single die on each tile containing a triangular token, and then so on and so forth. So there are a substantial amount to get you started there. If we take this as our example still, I would then go and find streets, bridges, and fuel depot. So you can see they're all named. So there's bridges, fuel depot, and streets. And when playing through, streets then tells you how to set up the map. So your mission, this will slow them down, puncture the tires at these objectives, tells you the tokens you'll need to set the game board up, and then the map tiles that will be required for internal and external. So the heavy lines are internal, and then the lighter lines, you just need to flip a tile over for external. So you can mix and match the layouts. As you can see there, streets. So that would be one mission. Bridges would be the second mission, and when they're both completed, it would allow you to move on to the fuel depot itself. So those are the large deck of cards. Our smaller deck is your event deck, which you pull during the game So every turn, one will be revealed. It will tell you if something's happening. So all commando gets +1 action point. And then you get a compass direction, which tells you the direction the figures will be moving in. So some of them may not be applicable when you draw them because you haven't actually completed a task or a specific event, or it might require everybody to be stealth or people to be carrying German weapons, whatever it happens to be. But that changes up your gameplay, and it's combined with the dice. So it's a standard D6, but on a 1 or a 2 you have these little spotted eye symbols. So when you enter a space with enemy soldiers, you'll roll this to see, and you roll 1 die for every enemy soldier in a square, or in a map tile, I should say. So the chances of being spotted go up considerably as you do so. So that's what you get in the box. Okay, so you've seen the box contents. I thought I would very quickly set up a game and show you how it kind of plays. So, as you've seen earlier, you get operation cards. So things like Operation Black Tea here in Norway. At the bottom of Black Tea, it tells you there are going to be 3 commandos. The game itself is set for 1 to 4 players, but different operations will have different values, although you can make your own. When we flip these over, we'll see it tells you about your setup. You get things like previous equipment gets to roll over. You get to choose things that you may want to take with you. And then you also get told the levels that are going to be played. So in this case, streets and bridges would both be played at the same time. And they must both be completed to unlock the fuel depot. And then if you actually go and find the bridges and streets cards, you flip them over, it shows you the layouts. So you're going to be playing 2 levels at the same time. The thick-edged tiles are interior, and then the lightly defined ones are exterior. There's no tile in the middle here, so it's just a void. It shows you where you set up your entry points for reinforcements, the objectives on the map, the alarm, your entry point, and then a closed exit point. Well, I think you can use either of those actually. And what you're going to be using in this, so defuse the bombs, 1 AP on each of the objectives, so on and so forth. Most notably down here, 2 commandos will be on this level, 1 commando will be on this level, and you need to achieve the objective and get at least 1 commando out per level for it to be a success. They're not suicide missions. Stealth is key, completing the objective is key, and then surviving to go to the next level is required. So while you may lose people along the way, you should really do your utmost to keep them alive. So I've set up something very similar, a mix of internal and external tiles. I've got an alarm here guarded by a German and a objective inside guarded by another German. I have a closed trapdoor and open one, which is where I'll be coming in from. These grey tiles are the doors. If they're completely grey, they're open. If they are, well, if there's a door in it, then it's closed and will require an action to open or to jam shut if you're lucky enough to have something like a crowbar. And then you take your commando. So for this, I've got a scout. A scout can actually move into large and medium tiles stealthily at a higher AP cost. Generally, any adjacent tile will cost you 1 AP to move into, as long as you've got an exit or an entry way between them. But to move stealthily into medium tile costs 2 for other commandos, and nobody can enter a large tile stealthily. This scout can though. So for 1 AP, he can move stealthily into medium tile, and 2 into a large, so he's much better for doing solo actions himself. And you've actually got a choice of 2 sides. We have the blue side, where he has a Thompson and only those 2 abilities. and a tan side where he has a Colt, so a smaller weapon, but he also gains an additional ability, which is a passive, allowing him to move through windows. When performing any move action, you can sneak through a wall between two tiles that is not connected by a door. So he could actually start here and go straight into this tile, thus saving him a movement point to get him towards the objective, which is really good. You can also see here, he essentially has 3 levels of wound, but you can also buy an action point. It's one of the abilities you can do. So when you've got your scout, you'll want to get the scout tokens. There'll be a uniform version in case he captures a uniform and a regular one. So we just pop the regular in there. And then also his equipment. So he always has the Colt, and he will be able to carry up to 3 additional pieces. He starts the mission with a crowbar, which is nice. And then the first thing you do in a turn is draw from the event deck. So if I draw from the event deck, it says, "You're okay, soldier. It's just a flesh wound. During this turn, 1 injured commando, not in critical condition, can remove one of those -1 AP tokens." That would have been better to have later on in the game. As you can see, it also gives a direction, so the Germans this turn will be moving in a northerly manner, and the compass actually tells us that north is that way. So as long as there's not a visible commando on the board, they'll drift in that direction. However, they won't abandon triangular tokens. So triangular tokens are the alarm, the objectives, even things like machine gun nests count as triangular tokens. So if one's manning machine gun nest, they won't walk away from it. So my event's drawn, and it's now my commando phase, and I've got 3 actions. So I think I'll attempt to take out the guard on the alarm first. So for 1 action, I can move stealthily into there. A second action point allows me to move stealthily into this tile. And because there is an enemy, you need to roll 1 die per enemy for a stealth check. And on a 2 or a 1, you'll be spotted. Otherwise, you're fine. So 6, unusual for me. So because I'm in a tile and I'm still stealthy and I've got an action point left, I can actually perform a close combat attack to automatically take the German out. You can't do close combat if you're visible. You can't get close enough to them to attack. So at that point you would be relying on guns, and guns make noise, and noise triggers alarms. And the interesting thing about this game is the alarm can be reset once, but the guards aren't stupid. Once they might think it's a false alarm. If it goes off multiple times, they'll know that somebody's there causing mischief. So that would be the end of my turn. Next, it would be the German reinforcement phase. So you draw a random reinforcement and then bring them into the tiles adjacent to wherever they happen to be spawning from. So in that case, 1 will spawn from here and another spawns from here. So I've got a gentleman with a sledgehammer. I'm not visible, so nobody's going to be walking directly towards me. Instead, they will go in the direction of the card, so north. This tile, they can't go anywhere because north takes them off board. This guy, however, will come into this room, which is a little bit annoying, but you can't have everything. And that would end the German phase. Oh, I almost forgot. When you kill someone, you get to draw from a bag and see what loot they drop in a computer game style. So if I draw from the bag, he will have actually dropped a stick grenade. So it would drop on the tile, but you can pick them up as long as you've got space for 0 AP. So I will actually take the stick bomb. In the end phase, you check to see if victory conditions have been met, which they haven't, and it would be a new phase. And with a new phase comes a new card. You think it can't get worse, At the end of the commando phase, a German tank shoots at a tile containing a visible commando with the effect of a blast. It can be avoided by moving or by using a +1 AP token to move to an adjacent tile. So a +1 AP token, you've got 3 actions in a turn. You can, however, buy bonus action for a future turn by spending an action point in your phase, and you would just pop it on your card there to mark it off, in the same way that wounds remove actions. So knowing that that's going to be in effect, it may be worthwhile having that, or because it's only going to affect outside tiles, it's probably best just not to be in an outside tile. So with that in mind, it would be my turn, and I know they're going to be moving westerly next turn, so they're going to be coming down the way, in which case I don't want to go straight into this objective because this fellow will follow me in afterwards and there will certainly be ructions. So I would actually use my actions this turn to go into this tile, and you can see little circles there because there are limits on how many can occupy. And I need to make another stealth, and I'm spotted. Alarm. So I would flip that, and it means I can no longer do a close combat attack to take that fella out. I've used 2 actions to get in there. I can use my third to shoot him, but it means next turn all the Germans will be coming for me. So I will use my Colt, since I have one there. And you can see the dots on the bottom are your number of dice you roll, and the target number to hit is actually on the bottom of the tile. So 4 up to hit in a small tile, 2 up on a large, 3 up in the medium. So if I roll that, try and keep it in shot, it's a 5. I actually take him out, but now I'm in a precarious position because I'm trapped in a corner of a room. The alarm is going to go off as I've made all the noise with my gun. The equipment he drops, hopefully it's something exceptional. Oh, it's a Sturmgewehr. So I could run and gun at this point. I do have another space, so I will take that, and it gives me options if I can't silence the alarm in the next phase. And then we'll go to the German reinforcement. So there's one in there. Oh, the second one's a blank, so I don't actually get another in that area because we're on double. And then one in there, and another. And in the German phase, they would move in. So not needing to follow the west this time, they're just going to be looking for visible enemies. If I could have left this square into another tile, if I had an action left, I could then become stealthy again. But in this case, I would presumably become swamped by Germans. And that is more or less how the game plays out. It's all about tactics and maneuver, and only fire when necessary. Okay folks, so there we have it. V-Sabotage, a game of stealth and intrigue in World War II. The games themselves play out in 30 minutes to 2 hours or so, depending on whether or not you're going to combine those levels into larger operations and play them all out in one go. Because the way they're split, you could play them at different times and just, record your progress, so to speak. So you can kind of dip in and dip out depending on how much time you have. I really like the idea of it, the aspect of it, especially that top down. It gives you a real nostalgic feel for some of the old computer games as well. So you're moving, you're having to be very quiet, achieve your objective and get out. It's not just run and gun all the time. But let me know what you think below. If you've played V-Sabotage, or its predecessor, it used to be called V-Commandos, you may be aware of that. So it's had a bit of a facelift, an upgrade in the art and the design, but the game itself remains the same and is mechanically very solid indeed. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.